October 7, 2020 meeting. It is 6:30. I would request from all members to state their names when speaking because that would be important for the minutes. Somehow the person who takes the minutes has trouble recognizing who is speaking. Our first order of business, Carol, would you please call the roll?
Raymond Antonacci.
Here.
Richard Antonetti.
Here.
Ken DeVere.
Here.
Dan DeVito.
Here.
Wes Andino.
Here.
Bob Marinaro.
Here.
Dave Polk. Luke Cavallo.
Here.
Anthony Tizio.
I'd like to place Commissioner Marinaro in for Dave Polk, and for Commissioner Ramo, I'd like to place, let's see, Danny DeVito, Commissioner DeVito for Mark Ramo. Okay, let us move on. First of all, I would like to have some nominations for the vacancies that have been created with the resignation of Commissioner Ramo. Do I have any nominations?
I would like to nominate Raymond Antonacci as vice chairman.
Do I hear any other nominations? Do I hear any other nominations? I hear any other? I move that nominations be closed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Nominations are closed. All those in favor of Raymond, or Commissioner Antonacci, to be vice chairman, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, abstain, it is unanimous. There is also a vacancy created for secretary. Do I have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Luigi Cavallo for secretary.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? I'd like to move nominations be closed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And all those abstained? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Okay, let us move ahead. Let's go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first order of business on our agenda, acceptance of the minutes, public participation. When you do come to the microphone, please speak clearly and please state your name and address for the record. Thank you. Anybody would like to speak, please come to the microphone right at the desk. Yes, if there's a red light on the mic, okay.
Okay, my name is John Everett. That's E-V-E-R-I-T-T, okay?
Yes,
And
sir.
because it's misspelled with an E, and I live at 2 Everett Lane. Okay. Can I sit down here?
Sure.
Okay. All right. The reason I'm here is I want this board to revoke the zoning change to Everett Lane, okay? On the basis that the application is illegal, it's vague. Mr. Pillacy, his letter of intent, application for Franklin Pillacy for the amendment of Watertown zoning map, redraw a district boundary of R30 and R12.5. Okay, residential. Now, that means nothing to anybody. The only reason that I found out that this was happening was I talked to neighbors. And the neighbors kept saying, what's going on? What's going on? Nobody knew. It's too vague. It's like the Miranda law. works the same way, well, you have rights. What are those rights? Mr. Pillacy, he's working on his property. How do I know where he's working? On this notice. Now, we're going to move on to both these applications because Mr. Pillacy filled them out. We have on his application, we have 4, 3, 2, 1 Everett Lane, 558 Davis Street, and 542 Davis. However, where's Everett Lane? That's a private owned road. My wife and I owned it. We owned it since 2014. It's the east side border of 542. And there were no notifications to that. That's illegal. Number 4 didn't get any notifications either. No registered letters. So I am saying that this application is void. And those votes that you had last time, okay, are nullified because the application isn't adequate to make a vote. And basically, by the Miranda law and my right to know, this is wrong. And it's unlawful. This should never have gone to a vote. How could anybody look at the east side, 152 feet, and not think somebody owns it? Well, here we go again. This is with our assessor's map because that's what we're using. So I'm asking this board, okay, to revoke that first because it is illegal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Eric Wyra. I am owner of 360 Straight Turnpike, former owner. Sure. My last name, WeihraUch, Eric. I'm the former owner for 339 Straight Turnpike, which is Mr. Everett's garage backyard. I also own 360 Straight Turnpike, and the zoning says in R30. However, my property is a non-conforming piece of property. It has only 75 feet frontage. Next to me is a building that has only 50 feet frontage, which were formerly part of my property. And what I'm asking for is, if this deal gonna go through on Davis Street, then I'm asking for my property to also be declared a 12.5 zone versus a 30 R zone. That is what I'm asking for. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, that's noted in our, we'll look at that. Thank you.
Okay, I'd just like to be treated equal if this is gonna go through.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else like to speak? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Is there anyone else? Hearing none, let us move on to our agenda for the acceptance of the minutes for our regular meeting on August 5th, 2020. Minutes of, would somebody like to make a motion, please?
I'll make a motion at the meeting minutes of the August
5th.
19th to 2020 meeting be accepted.
Motion has been made.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Demers, and the motion was made by Commissioner Antonizzi. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried unanimously. The next regular meeting for September 2nd, I need a motion. Please state your name. Make the motion, someone.
I'll make the motion that the meeting minutes of September 2nd, 2020 be accepted.
That's Commissioner Antonizzi. Do I have a second?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I don't know if you're speaking speaking into a mic or to speak a little louder? What was your motion?
I make a motion that the meeting minutes of September 2nd, 2020 be accepted. Commissioner Raymond Antonesi.
I believe you have to table the second set of minutes. I don't think they were ready yet.
Which one? September 2nd?
September 2nd, yes, they were not completed yet, so I believe you have to table September 2nd minutes.
All right. Okay, I'll make a motion that we table the September 2nd, 2020 minutes. And I would make a motion that we make the agenda having a note to that effect. Thank you.
Yes.
Motion has been made. Do I have a second? Name, please. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
All right.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried unanimously. Chairman's report, our staff's report. Do you have something to report, Mark?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Mark Massoud for the record. Just some couple of highlights of what we've been working on this past month. And I know we say this a lot, but it's been a long process, and I think we're finally getting towards the implementation, the actual implementation of the municipal land use process. We are about to be able to load zoning applications into a live system. The building department is working on their part of it. And again, it's been a long process, but the end result will be a greater efficiency, both for processing applications and for filing them on behalf of the public. We also hosted and conducted a regional seminar that had to do with hazard mitigation. So in the region, traditionally each town has been responsible for its own hazard mitigation plan. What that is an emergency response plan for natural disasters, fires, hurricanes, floods, and such. The state is, the movement is towards a more regional plan, and that, of course, is being hosted by Naugatuck Valley COG, who is conducting seminars for each town. So we met with our group of first responders and reviewed the plan, which is, I think, in excess of 5 years old now, and we'll continue working on that to blend it into a more regional plan. We've been working with various businesses in town to bring applications to the commission and to bring them to fruition. One of them is here in front of you tonight, Ion Bank. We're meeting shortly with the owners of what's known as the Garden Brook Retirement Community on Straits Turnpike. They have a very interesting proposal for cluster age-restricted residential housing that they hope to bring to the commission in the next month or two. And just to note that the building official, Joel Skilton, is resigning. He took another position elsewhere, and so we are in the process of hiring temporary help to assist in the workload and to find a permanent replacement. And that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Any commissioners have any questions for Mark? Any commissioners have any questions? Hearing none, let us move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the chairman's report. I have none at this time. Let us move forward to new public hearings. There are none. Let us move to continuation of public hearing. And the first matter on the agenda is a site plan special permit number 20204, Henry Dunham, 404 Buckingham Street, Oakville, Connecticut, converting a two-family home to a three-family dwelling, map number 114B in block B4, block B block, 157 lot 18 in a R-12.5 zone district. Mark?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Mark Masood. If you recollect, this was delayed from the previous meeting pending a full report. I provided that to you tonight in the form of a resolution. The most important aspects of this was a fire marshal and building department review. In the 12.5 zoning district, up to three family dwellings are allowed. In reality, this is a structure that contains 2 apartments and a commercial business on the first floor. The owner has some unused space that he wishes to turn into a third dwelling unit. The fire marshal, that is allowed in this zone, so the resolution is for an approval. I do have to just note for Mr. Duhamel that the fire marshal and the building department are likely to require what might be extensive and structural changes to make the 3 apartments code compliant. But having said that, again, it is an allowable activity in that zoning district. So I've given you a resolution for approval with conditions that the future concerns of the fire marshal and building inspector be met.
Are there any
I'm sorry, and
questions?
the town engineer also weighed in with respect to parking and any future impervious surfaces.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Any questions from members of the commission? Hearing none, let us therefore, there will be a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing? So moved. Who's that? I should note that Dave Polk is present, so that means therefore Commissioner, I believe, who did we put? Who's that?
I think it was Ezekiel that told me for.
No, I had,
You said Mr. Marinaro.
Right.
Mayor Cole.
for Dave Polk, I sat Mr. Commissioner Marinaro. I would have to remove you as a regular member, Commissioner, and since Commissioner Polk is here. So, okay. So now Commissioner Polk, you're making a motion to close the public hearing. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second,
Motion has been seconded by who? Please state your name.
Ken.
Ken Demers,
That's me.
Commissioner Demers. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried unanimously. Let's move on with our agenda. Next item, number 2 on the is a Attorney Franklin Pillacy, a site plan special permit number 2020-505 for a 3-family dwelling on 542 Davis Street, Oakville, Connecticut. Map page 144, block 97, lot 13 in an R 12.5 zone. Since this particular plan is still before another commission, we cannot act on it. It is before inland wetlands. They have to make a decision. I believe they're going to have sidewalk. And at that time, it will be open for consideration. So I'd like somebody to make a motion to table item number 2. Do I have that motion? Please state your name.
Luigi Cavallo, I make a motion to table item number 2.
The motion has been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. Dan DeVito?
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Abstention? Hearing none, the
I'm an
motion.
abstain.
There was a motion to abstain from Commissioner Demers. Motion is carried with 1 abstention. Motion is carried. New business. Under new business, a site plan for Carvel Restaurant and G Burgers at 1300 Main Street for a construction of a 23-foot by 38-foot addition to an existing commercial building. Commissioner, Attorney Pelosi, I believe you're here. Would you like to state what this is all about?
Okay, for the record, Franklin Pelosi and also George Sifliklis, the owner of the property. This is an application for modification to the building to add the addition as proposed, which essentially is a 23 by 38-foot addition to an existing structure. The applicant proposes to construct the addition on the southern side of the building, adjacent to Straits Turnpike, within an area where there currently exists a patio with outdoor seating. This application was before the Zoning Board of Appeals, and variances were approved that allow this to proceed. And those variances have been obtained, recorded on the land records, and copies filed with the zoning office. This application, I believe, has been reviewed by the zoning staff and by the town engineer. And George is here to answer any questions if there are any specific questions, but it's a pretty modest modification of an existing business.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners?
I do have a question. Luigi Cavallo, how would this affect the parking with this new addition? Would this provide more capacity for more traffic?
At the time of the variance application, Musa conducted a review of the parking and informed us that the parking is 5 spaces more than what's required. And I believe Mark also looked at the parking so that there's no additional parking needed, and there's already adequate parking, or more than adequate parking.
Thank you. Perfect.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Mark, you have any comments? Does this need to be set for a public hearing? I don't think so.
No, this is just a modification.
Right.
It can be voted on tonight.
Okay, we're going to be voting on it.
Correct, Mr. Chair, Mark Massoud. No, it is the application was for a site plan modification, and I reviewed it in that fashion and provided you with a resolution. The town engineer did review the proposal and made comments which are included and referenced in the motion. Everything that's been stated is accurate. ZBA has granted variances to 2 front setbacks, and staff did review the parking allotment and found adequate capacity for the site. So we have given you a resolution with conditions of approval.
Okay, that would fall underneath articles on the agenda ready for possible action, and that'll be item number 3 when we get to that.
Through the chair, I have one question. Are there any architectural renders? Oops, sorry. I have one question, Ray Antonacci. Are there any architectural renderings of the addition?
I do have something.
Okay.
I'll take my control. Yeah, this one. Is this going to be the front facing from, I don't see this later on the agenda.
It's going to match the other building. pretty much.
Actually, some of the whole thing is missing from there. They'll vote to add it.
We're gonna do the concrete up to the windows for extra protection, and I'm gonna put stones in on the outside. And then we have the side, you can see one of the windows, because we able to be looking.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, sir. We'll take this up later under articles on the agenda, item number 3.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. As you know, this is very important considering the pressure on restaurants and businesses. I believe G Burgers and Carvel employs a significant number of residents. And considering the time and place, it's good to see an expansion of business and hopefully to keep someone in business.
Thank you.
Moving on. Item 2.
Yep.
Item 2 is, again, Attorney Pilacy, text amendment dealing with the Watertown zoning regulation, section 34.14, drive-through facilities. I believe we had this before us dealing. Would you like to go through it one more time?
I'm sorry to interrupt, excuse me. On number 1, for Carvel, I don't believe the action is under number 3, so I don't know whether you need to make a motion.
You add.
Do they need to make a motion there, Mark? And then add it after? I don't see it on
No,
number
it's not.
3.
Right, it is, we failed to list it in articles on agenda, so when we get to that point, you can just simply add consideration of that item to the agenda and then vote accordingly.
And you don't need to make any motion for where it is under number 1.
No,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, item 2 on the agenda, we're just asking for a public hearing. Be scheduled for the next meeting date.
That next meeting for public hearing will be November 4th, I believe. Would somebody like to make a motion for public hearing, schedule a public hearing?
I make a motion to schedule a public hearing for November 4th. Dave Cole.
Ray Antonacci, second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, abstention, hearing none, motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Number 3. Boulder Engineering Site Plan Special Permit 20-06970 Main Street. Proposed an ion bank with a drive-through facility. Is a person here for Ion Bank? Anyone here from Ion Bank? We'll set that then for a public hearing. No one to speak on behalf tonight? Somebody like to make a motion to set the Ion Bank for a public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
That also would be November 4th.
I'll make the motion that we set a public hearing for item number 3, permit number 2020-06 for November 4th.
I second it. Luke,
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstention? Hearing none, the motion is carried for a setting of a public hearing. Old business, Loop Road, is there a possibility we can either deal with this or maybe remove it from the agenda?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, Paul Benevich, Town Engineer. This item's been around for quite a while because the project has been around for quite a while. We've been trying to get the developer and his forces to finish the subdivision. Until we do that, we can't accept the road and then set this, which is a maintenance bond for the pavement. So I would ask that the commission at this point withdraw this from the agenda, and we'll resubmit and when everything is in order. So.
I will accept the motion to withdraw item number 1, Loop Road, Summit Ridge subdivision bond to be removed from the agenda at this time.
So move.
Motion has been made. Do I have a second?
Antonacci, second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, abstained, motion is carried unanimously. Okay. Articles ready for possible action. Number 1, we all have a resolution in front of us. Commissioner Antonizzi, Vice Chairman, do you have that resolution?
I do. This is the 404 Greenham Street.
Dunham, right?
Yeah, I move that the commission vote in favor and adopt the resolution prepared by Mark Marsul, Administrator of Land Use and Building Services from the zoning, planning and zoning commission for conversion of 2-family into a 3-family dwelling. His proposed resolution is dated October 6, 2020, and adopted in its full written condition.
Very good.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Polk. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Hearing none, the motion is carried unanimously. Commissioner Antonizzi, I believe you have another one.
Application from attorney
We gotta
Franklin
table
Pilsey for
this.
site plan special permit 2020-05 for a 3-family, not this one,
We got to table that.
withdrawn that. Yeah, that was been tabled.
Yes.
There actually is no third matter on the agenda, but and we don't have a proposed resolution for Carvel, do we?
Yes, you do.
It's just not on the agenda. Okay, I got it. All right. I move that this commission approve and accept the resolution prepared October 6, 2020 by Mark Marcy, Administrator for Land Use and Building Services regarding 1300 Main Street, Carvel, GT Holdings, Carvel, and Giesberg in its full written, as written by Mr. Marcy.
Motion has been made
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried unanimously.
And sorry to interrupt again. Number 1, Mr. Duhan, I'm sorry, number 2, Mr. Philisi, table that. Is that correct? I can't hear.
Yes.
Okay, do we have a motion?
It was tabled, it was motioned and table, seconded, and it was tabled.
And who made the motion? You made the motion?
I made the motion to table.
Second, please?
I believe Commissioner Demers.
No.
No,
No, yes.
Commissioner DeVito.
Might have been Dan.
All right. Seconded. Good? Okay.
Okay, I think we have next item on the agenda. A report from the report. Are we going to do this report here? Sealy property.
Yeah, she's here.
Would you like to come to the mic? And who's going to make the?
Courtney.
We have Courtney Henderson, who is going to make a presentation on the Sealy property. And this was a study done by the Economic Development Commission, and now we'll hear what we have.
Right.
And also attending with Courtney, we have Commissioner Joseph McGrail.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Joe McGrail, Economic Development Commission. Some months ago, we commissioned a report from Advanced CT to get some ideas of what to do with the Sealy property. The Sealy property will probably be the single most important vote you guys are going to take in a long time. It's going to redefine the face of Oakville, and it's really an important vote. We didn't want to just sort of use a dartboard theory of what's best for that piece of property. So instead of that, we commissioned this report from Advanced CT. Courtney will outline exactly what her findings were. And I think it's important that we try to stay close to these findings to make the project as successful as possible for the town of Watertown and Oakville. Courtney?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Good evening. So I'm going to walk through the executive summary at a very high level, and I'd be happy to take your questions and comments following. So the market economic feasibility analysis for 25 Hillside Avenue, of course, a 16-acre site in Watertown's Oakville section, the location of the former Sealy plant on the upper parcel and the former Winchester Electronics facility on the lower parcel, both subsequently demolished, and to support the creation of redevelopment scenarios with the best market potential for the site, as Joe just mentioned, initiated by the EDC and Joe Seacrest. And it should be noted that the site was subject to environmental contamination. It was remediated in compliance with the state of Connecticut's remediation standard regulations. It does prohibit the use of the site for residential as it currently stands and some disturbance of the soil as it currently stands. But these restrictions could be lifted if additional remediation were completed by the subsequent owner. We have talked with Deep at length about this, and given that additional remediation would allow for more reuses in the future, this study includes the market potential for those uses. Successful redevelopment of the site will take planning and vision from a capable development team. A little bit about housing and retail, and then I'll get into some detailed key findings that we had. Watertown is projected to see a net decrease in the total number of working age households, totaling approximately 780, and a marked increase in the number of older residents and retirees. Watertown has a relative lack of smaller, that would be 0 to 2 bedroom units and rental housing available, which may be constraining its growth. Providing more diverse housing options, we found, could enable young people and new workers moving to the region to rent in the community, creating a pipeline of potential home purchasers and new residents. Similarly, this can provide a way for retirees and empty nesters who may wish to downsize but stay in the community a more low maintenance lifestyle. So including housing on the Oakville site could contribute to the density needed to support additional business in the area. That was one of our key findings. And again, additional environmental remediation would be required to put housing on the site. We recommend supplementing the basic housing data that you'll find in the full study with discussions with large employers and key anchor institutions in the community regarding their growth plans, their housing needs of their constituents. All of that will help indicate where housing options may need to be expanded. Moving on to retail. This analysis finds that the area within a 1 mile radius of the site is the domain of convenience retail. The demand for this type of retail in general has been met. That includes convenience stores, small pharmacies, coffee shops, and that kind of thing. So we found that there really was no retail gap in that kind of retail. Those segments of retail that have a larger gap would include a 3 mile radius, which would be primarily a neighborhood style retail, and restaurants and other eating places also have a sizable gap. Potential opportunities there under neighborhood retail would include clothing stores, building material type stores, supply stores, sporting goods, jewelry, luggage and leather goods, and home furnishing stores. And then the largest trade area that we examined is a 6 mile radius, and that we would consider is a community or anchor type of retail. And again, there are some opportunities there. So segments where there is a retail gap with that 6 mile radius would include motor vehicle stores, furniture stores, sporting goods, and again, building materials, garden equipment, that kind of thing. We can all think of those larger Lowe's and Home Depot style stores. Retail segments with the greatest potential for success on this site are likely smaller shops with goods and services that cater to the unique demographics of this population living in the immediate vicinity. So retailers with a niche clientele, a unique product, those that capitalize on the character of the neighborhood and of course of the entire community. Certainly regionally, retail leasing has been slower in recent months, and we want to be sure that we're cognizant of that when we're thinking about a new vision for this site. So many retailers have successfully incorporated an entertainment factor or an action type experiential factor with the retail to be more successful and draw people in. And in the Oakville site region, similar office has also been slow to lease. Certain industries are growing regionally, and these include information services, data processing, ambulatory healthcare, administrative and support type services, and eating and drinking. So that's where the office and commercial you would want to weigh next to the retail, next to the housing. And then lastly, I would say site-specific opportunities would be, again, taking into account the character of the immediate vicinity. So the fact that the Oakville Town Green is adjacent, the Pin Shop Pond, those represent an opportunity to capitalize on those outdoor spaces. They create a distinctive amenity. Maybe you consider putting a maker space in combination with some of the retail, creative retail ideas, that kind of thing. So those would be very site specific. The types of businesses that we found by NAICS code, and this gets to be pretty technical, and I'm not an economic researcher by trade, so you can bear with me, but if you have specific questions here, we can certainly share them with our PhD economists who helped with this study. The NAICS codes that we found that would be successful on this site include other information services, which is a very broad category, but essentially example establishments in the town include Pro Conversions Corporation and New Life Computers. The second is lessors of non-financial intangible assets, another mouthful, but an example of an establishment in the region for that would be R&K Spiro Incorporated. The third NAICS code, data processing, that's a little bit more understandable for us laymen. Example establishments in the region, ADP, FistServe, and Spot On Networks. And lastly, ambulatory healthcare services. Example establishments, of course, Restoring Your Wellness, Rise Up Behavioral Health Service, and neck and back pain specialists. Employment is projected to grow significantly in the industries over the next 5 years. And the industries that we've just listed conform to the zoning requirements as well. We wanted to be sure that we established what is also allowed on this site. Each of those industries has seen local wage growth exceed the average local wage growth since 2014, and each average annual industry wage is greater than the state annual average as well. So employment in each of those industries is projected to significantly grow in the region, and each of those industries is expected to grow anywhere from 12 to 20% in the region. So again, that's where you would want to be focused in terms of future growth. Key data findings that have not been covered yet. Demographically, not surprisingly, the population is aging and it's less racially and ethnically diverse than the New Haven and Litchfield counties. Watertown has mostly middle income and married couple family households. None of this is news to you all, but it's helpful context as you're establishing what you'd like to see on the site. In terms of transit and commuting patterns, the majority of Watertown residents commute outside of the municipality for work. The Oakville site is within easy commuting distance of many of the state's population and employment centers. And Route 73, just south of the site, has an annual average daily traffic count of 15,000 vehicles. In terms of environmental conditions, we touched on the remediations that would be required, specifically 15,469 square feet on the site requires no soil disturbance at this time, and approximately 4,500 square feet can have no building constructed on it. The entire site is subject to the restriction of no residential. And again, those could all be changed if additional remediation was done. DEEP has indicated that these restrictions could potentially be lifted as additional remediation is completed. So that's the kind of conversations that the Economic Development team and the Planning and Zoning Commission, of course, in addition to key staff, will have to be having with future interested developers. Of course, you know this, but the site has been rezoned as part of the Oakville Business District for retail and office uses up to 7,500 square feet with a site plan permit, and retail and commercial uses up to 20,000 square feet, housing and other limited uses possible by special permit. So who are you trying to attract? Again, back to a little bit more on housing. Watertown's housing stock contains mostly larger homes, fewer rental options, so lack of housing diversity may be constraining the town's growth. You all will have to be looking at what you would like to attract in that regard. The most significant growth opportunities will originate primarily from new workforce moving to the region. And again, that might indicate the desire to have more diverse housing options because of the aging of the demographic, and they might want a smaller, low maintenance housing option. And then again, you have those top growing industries where average wages would not support the median home ownership costs in Watertown today on a single income. Again, just to reiterate a little bit more on the retail, convenience retail analysis shows additional need for restaurants and eateries in the immediate area. There is little need for large scale retail, although some smaller neighborhood style retail would be supported. And those would include, again, clothing, building materials, gardening, sporting goods, hobby shops, home furnishings. Retail segments with the greatest potential for success, again, are smaller shops with goods and services that cater to the unique demographic. They have a niche clientele, perhaps. They certainly fit the character of the community and of the neighborhood. I want to just bring it out a little bit larger than the one community and talk about the region, because we do industry analysis by the region to make sure that we have the most accurate data. So metrics there are showing that many of those industries identified are in the manufacturing and transportation sectors, those growing, and those may not be suitable for the site. So again, we want to be sure that we're matching up what we're seeing in the quantitative data with what is feasible on the ground in your community, both from a zoning perspective and certainly from a what you would like to see, what you would like to attract perspective. So two other industries that did not score as highly in all the areas of the analysis, but should be considered due to regional job growth, would include that administrative support services and eating and drinking. So you see the themes that are coming through. Regional economic trends. The number of businesses in the region has steadily increased over the last 5 years. The unemployment rate in Watertown has been much lower than in the United States and in the state of Connecticut as a whole. Local and regional commercial real estate activity has focused on industrial and warehouse, but office and retail has been relatively slow. And certainly with COVID, you kind of have two different contrasting factors. One being that the increase in remote work may have a dampening effect on the demand for office and retail. On the other hand, there is some evidence that we're seeing that folks are wanting to leave large urban dense areas and they're looking for suburban options so that social distancing and quality of life become top of mind for employers. So that in a nutshell is our study. There's a much longer version that you'd be more than welcome to jump into, but at a very high level, I just wanted to go through it and happy to take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Chair Courtney, yes. Do you have any estimates of the cost of the remediation of this site to make it feasible for residential?
I do not. We talked with Deep at length about the need to have it, but I do not know the cost. But that's certainly something that we could look into. They would have to give us estimates. I mean, it would be really ballpark, but we certainly could do that if that's helpful.
Okay. The second question is this a plan for one developer or to segment it into several developers?
This plan, my understanding is that it was to set up opportunities for any developer who would be interested, who could then see the market feasibility of the different options that we looked into. Is that accurate, Joe?
Exactly. We were trying to just get a vision of what the property could become. We're not real estate developers, but we certainly, I think we have a vested interest in that property. It's a gateway to Watertown. And it's critical that we have to put the right development in that spot. So that was really the genesis of this report, or why the reason we got this report going. So.
Question, Commissioner?
Is that 16 acres still separated into two pieces, or is it all one now? Because it was always two separate, or three even.
Yeah. So as far as we know, it hasn't been adjoined yet. There's two pieces that would be between Hillside Avenue and Riverside Street. And there's a third parcel across the street on Riverside.
Right.
So those pieces are all separate. To my knowledge, I don't think they've been adjoined at this point. But I will say that we know officially that the property is on the market. They've hired a national search firm to try to sell this property. So this report comes in a very good time for us to let our thoughts be known to any future developer that comes in. And we've made this report available to Sealy, and they did pass it on to the real estate developers.
I do also
Any
have
other
a question to the chair. So are you saying that, from what I understand, that Watertown might need more restaurants?
That is what the retail industry analysis piece did show, that there would be a additional demand for eateries, yes.
Did they take into consideration the COVID and how the eateries are kind of struggling right now?
There is language in the front that says this report was prepared prior to COVID. So it's important that we weigh the reality, yes, very much, with what's on the ground, the reality of that with what we have found. But the retail by the numbers analysis showed that. So.
Okay, and they just make a mention of more eateries, but not a certain type of eatery, or?
It did not, although it was more about the size. You remember that the very, very small neighborhood within 1 mile type of retail, there wasn't as much of a demand for. And yet eateries came up more than once, so.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
And I do think this report, we're looking at the other side of COVID. We understand the issues right now, and it's really tough to run a business today. And I think George was here, you attest to that. But again, we're looking at past COVID and when we get back to some normalcy.
Any other questions? There's a question, yes.
Did they give you a timeline on the remediation? If that was to take place, how long that would take? This has
No.
been like such a long process to get where we are.
Well, I can answer part of it. So it's been remediated to a point where it's sellable and something could go on there. Up until this point, the property was really in limbo and everybody was afraid to take a chance to even attempt to buy the property with the unknowns. Deep has at least approved this property for some development. It would be commercial development or retail development, but again, not housing. So if we want to take the next step, I think that's what Courtney, maybe she could find out, get us some estimates on what it would cost somebody to remediate that much further. But right now, it's marketable and people could build on it right now if they chose to.
Right. Yeah, I was speaking specifically towards the residential.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. But we can try to get an idea of what that's going to cost, because that's going to be a critical thing even for Sealy to pass on to a developer. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Just want to have one question very clear. DEP is out of the picture totally and completely. Are they still involved with this property?
Sure. The DEP has blessed the remediation thus far, and they would be involved again if and when additional remediation took place. But right now, they have checked the box that says it's marketable, you can sell it as is.
Sell it as is for what type of
For
development?
commercial development.
Commercial
in
development. So,
Parts of the property.
so
yes.
therefore, we're not pie in the sky. A commercial development could come in tomorrow
Correct.
without housing. We shouldn't worry about housing because realistically, we have a lot of opportunities for housing and development housing, but we do need commercial. I think that is so vital to Watertown is commercial development. And I would say at any kind of marketing, that is the direction that it should go. My feeling, housing is not really top priority. And I think some of the questions as far as restaurants, I don't know if that is a top priority. I think we have to prioritize what is the best for Watertown in terms of business and job opportunities, those two categories. Where are job opportunities going to be offered in Watertown? And then I think when you have those job opportunities, it will stimulate all other smaller businesses. When you start talking about, and I noticed you had leather businesses and small shops like that, we have many stores in the downtown area, the immediate downtown area that are empty. That is not the type, I think, of realistically type of businesses we need in Watertown. We need a larger commercial operation. And I know they're hard to come by. So therefore, that is something that I think we should be really looking at in terms of marketing. As far as housing, I don't see that as a priority. That's my own opinion.
Hopefully
Rich,
this-
just for clarity, our thought on housing would be retail or commercial on the first floor and housing above it. That's something we were thinking about to try to sort of merge the two thoughts of the commercial retail need and the housing need. So that was the thought we were having when we were talking about this.
Yeah, but still it's housing and it's still another jump to go over as far as remediation.
Right.
And that therefore takes a longer period of time. I'm looking at something very quickly to be brought in. And if we can find that opportunity, I think that is the way we should go. That housing is not something of great importance, even with stores below and apartments above. We have that downtown right now. And those stores are not thriving down there. They need something to stimulate more commercial, some more businesses to come in. And I think if you get a commercial operation, more business will grow from there. But I really don't think housing is a priority. It only presents a roadblock because we're still in the remediation stage and we're still dealing with DEP, and that will take another 30 years. We're lucky at this particular point due to the efforts of Representative Paletta to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. He was the guy that got rid of, with the assistance of your commission, to get rid of the building that was dilapidated and falling over. Sealy had no idea that building was even there. And that's a shock. It had drifted off their plans totally. When it was brought to their attention, they were surprised that it still existed. And it wasn't Sealy that totally contaminated it. There was a previous business that there was a bigger contamination element there. So I think if we can get away from, DEP, they stagnate any real development. So if we can find some other kind of opportunity and maybe make that known to the people that are out there marketing. That
We have
would like
shared
that.
this with Sealy and their marketing team. And if you think about what came up in light of the data processing and/or the ambulatory healthcare, that kind of a use is very, very clear that there's a need according to the data. And so hopefully they will take that into account and recruit accordingly.
That's what I would like to see. Thank you.
And I think, Rich, the important thing is we want to show a whole picture.
Yes.
We want to let everybody know about housing, retail, commercial, whatever. So that it's a concise report that gives them a good picture of what that property can and can't do.
Right. And as I say, I appreciate the report, but the very fact that we're still hanging with DEP in the housing area,
Right.
I think we should move forward in another direction quickly.
Just a side note, how Sealy found out about that property was that Joe and I were talking at a meeting one day and I got frustrated because we couldn't get anywhere with Sealy. So I said, maybe we should just boycott Sealy mattresses. Well, about 2 days later, Sealy came banging on our door asking us what the heck was going on because it was picked up on some news report that some knucklehead, me, Joe McGrath, decided that they were going to try to boycott Sealy. And that's when they actually found out that the property was still on their books because they've gone through so many transitions over the years, they just lost track of the property. I don't know how you lose track of 16 acres and a couple 100,000 square feet of building, but they did. And everything turned out for the good. I mean, thankfully, with the building down and the property being available right now. So.
I think what a good question was raised by earlier commission is the cost for remediation. What is the additional cost? I think that's a significant question too. Thank you for the report. And I think we're beginning to finally, after 30 years, see some movement in a good direction for our town.
But it's a critical piece of property for the town. And like I said, it's going to be one of your most important votes that you will take whenever the property does come to market. So.
And we're anxiously awaiting that. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments from members?
Mr. Chairman, should I just weigh in? My takeaway from that report was that they identified, and there's several options, of course, residential being, identified as a need, particularly for older and retiring folks in this town, but that it certainly it carries a significant, not risk, but a significant load in terms of making the property more compliant for that use. But looking at the other options, certainly they're also equally as viable and can bring, as the commission seems to be steering in that direction, to bring a more not commercial, but more of that regional type of development that could also benefit the town. And in that aspect, I think that behooves the commission to look critically at the zoning regulations and maybe beforehand set them up or add those specific types of uses as uses that would be allowed in that zone, so that the town could be ready to take advantage of those opportunities when they present themselves. One of my other takeaways, interestingly enough, even though this report was done for the Sealy property and for Oakville specifically, I see a lot of correlation between downtown Watertown proper and Oakville and that property, in that those areas do seem to be incubator type areas for those small unique businesses that have the opportunity to fledge their wings and to take advantage of lower rents and have less grist to try to open. We see that on Main Street in Watertown. There's a little cookie company that's just opened. There's a little dog grooming place that's just opened. There are any number of businesses that try to operate. And also the pin shop itself right in that area is a tremendous incubator for all types of businesses that some we don't even have an idea of what there are, other than the ones that we do know, a humble bee company, there's a coffee roaster. It's amazing the amount of unique small businesses that occur within that area in that corridor. So I just found it interesting that the report pointed that out for the Sealy property, and I just look at an extension of those uses for the other downtown areas as well.
Okay, any other business? Hearing none. Next meeting is November 4th. The motion is in order for adjournment.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you and have a good evening. Stay healthy and well.
Yes, sir.
We have no housing for single bedroom housing for people that are alone in life.